Aha!
What are you doing?
Jeez.
Ah, Zeb, great you're here. You're going to want to settle down and grab another cup of coffee. Trust me on this one. I've got some information I've been doing a lot of research on, and I think the world really needs to hear about right now.
Okay. Why does your voice sound like that?
They've created the system. It's advanced. It's smart. It's silent. We've got to let the masses know. Stay vigilant. Spread the message. It watches you when you're sleeping and knows when you're awake. If you get into a car accident or a fall, blood oxygen, ECG. It even knows when women ovulate.
Okay, Seb, I'm gonna have to stop you right there, man. Not only are all of these things true and well known, people pay good money to have these features on their devices. It's actually a multi-billion-dollar industry run by some of the world's largest companies.
Oh, well then calm down, Sev. We have nothing to worry about.
What?
Well, as long as we don't buy one, we're good.
Well, actually, I kind of bought one a few weeks ago.
What? Are you crazy?
Well, since I have one, doesn't that mean... What's up guys, 007 here with the latest mid-tier timepiece offering from Apple, the Apple Watch Series 8. I've been living with this thing for about 3 weeks now, using it day and night, keeping track of my sleep patterns, vitals, and a whole host of other metrics which you may or may not find useful for your daily life. Is it worth the upgrade from the Series 7? Or maybe you're like me and you've been using a dumb watch your entire life? Well, the answer is it depends. As with most mobile technology these days, it looks like we may have hit a plateau on the processing front. With both the Apple Watch Series 8 and iPhone 14 carrying over last year's set of chips, I think a lot of people are reconsidering whether they really need the latest models from Apple. And rightfully so. Last year's models were just as smooth, they carry over a lot of the same features, and they run the same OS while costing you a lot less than the newest model. So what makes the Series 8 different? We've got a new set of temperature sensors, one for ambient temps around your wrist and the other for the temperature at your wrist. Now, at first I thought this was going to be super useful for measuring your body's natural temperature fluctuations throughout the day as your circadian rhythm moves along. It's supposed to heat up and then cool down as you get near sleeping time. But for now, it's only being used for two things. One, for tracking your menstrual cycle, which despite its name does not apply to men. I know it's super useful for women though, so I'm just joking. And two, for slight body temperature variations while you sleep. With cycle tracking, the Apple Watch is retrospectively estimating when your next ovulation is going to be. Now, in order for this to work, you'll have to set up sleep focus on your iPhone and wear your watch to bed for at least 5 nights, during which the watch is going to be using those nifty temperature sensors along with your personally logged cycle data, which you'll be inputting yourself, to better estimate when that next time of month is going to be. Now, obviously, I can't test this myself, but I do religiously track my sleep using my Series 8, and after 5 days of wearing it to bed, I have started to see those temperature readings show up in my sleep data. That being said, I really don't know what to do with the data. It's clear that Apple is pushing the fact that this is not a diagnostic tool for your health. They don't want to provide any recommendations nor diagnose anything that may put them in that gray liability area. So what they do is they provide the data and let you sort the rest of it out. Now, fair enough, but knowing slight temperature variations at my wrist when I'm sleeping of like 0.2 degrees here and there doesn't really provide any insight for me. So I can only hope that future feature updates or maybe third-party apps will allow access to measuring your body's temperature throughout the day. And having access to that data would only help users to fine-tune their circadian cycle and not only improve restful sleep, but mood, energy, and overall health. Now, speaking of health, I've been wearing the watch to the gym regularly, and I kind of have mixed feelings on its uses. For one, there are a ton of workout features from walking and swimming to cycling and strength training. You can keep track of metrics like your heart rate, your calories burned, your stride length, etc. And I know a lot of people rave online about wearing their watch when they exercise, so that's great for them. But for me personally, I didn't feel like it provided any useful metrics when I was doing my exercises. Oftentimes, I go to the gym for strength training, so like lifting weights, using the sauna, pulling a sled, and I feel like it got in my way more so than giving me any data that was providing some insight into my health and my exercise.
Yeah, that's the stuff.
So I guess depending on what type of exercises you're doing, maybe you're a swimmer or you're doing laps and you're running, you can get some pretty in-depth data on the type of stroke you're using when you're swimming. So like a breaststroke or how many laps you've done around the track. That data is pretty cool. And it could tell you like how long you've spent with both of your feet on the floor or one foot off the floor. And as a professional athlete or an enthusiast, that might be useful metrics for you. But for me personally, like I said, it wasn't really useful for that. Actually, when I'm wearing my watch at the gym, I'm primarily using it for streaming music to my Bluetooth headphones, so I don't have to carry my phone along with me. Two notes though, I mentioned the sauna earlier. Apple actually recommends to not wear your watch in with you to the sauna. It could damage it. And also, one thing to note about using Wi-Fi separate from your iPhone, if you want to connect your watch to Wi-Fi, it's no problem for normal Wi-Fi networks. But you know those Wi-Fi networks where you have to log in with like a password? They're called captive networks, and most captive networks will not work with the Apple Watch. For whatever reason, you won't be able to log in to the Wi-Fi network to give the watch access to it. So what I do is I just load some songs onto it from my library on iTunes onto the watch itself, and then I use this as kind of like a portable iPod that's strapped to my wrist. Obviously, it'd be cool to have access to like Pandora and stuff, which you can download and have the apps on your watch. But with the captive networks in place, the only workaround there really is to have a cellular model, which you're gonna have to pay for monthly, which obviously has its own expenses associated with that. Now, hopefully everyone's showering after the exercise, right? Although Apple claims that the watch has a depth rating of 50 meters, they still don't recommend you take the watch with you when you shower. It's not the water itself, but the soaps and chemicals that you normally use when washing up that can wear away the water-resistant seal on the Apple Watch. This is as good a time as any to charge the watch. The battery life will usually last me through a day and a half if I'm not charging at all, but with regular charging when I'm taking a shower or eating breakfast, the battery charges fast enough to make it a viable daily and nightly companion without any of that pesky charge anxiety. I've found that it takes about 45 minutes to go from 25% to 100%, so although it's more upkeep than a normal watch, it's certainly not as annoying as you might think. I do have to make a point here. Apple has this really nice wireless charging puck that they include with the watch. You just rest the watch on top of it and it fast charges it really nicely. But they don't include the dang wall adapter for you to plug this into the wall and actually charge the watch. Now, thankfully, my MacBook does have a USB-C port, which is what this is. But still, this is inexcusable. Apple, you're not saving the environment. You're just increasing your profits. And I don't like it. As a techie and lifelong watch wearer, I'm a bit conflicted on the Apple Watch. I mean, before Apple built this thing, realistically, how many average consumers were spending over $400 on a watch? Heck, prior to me buying this, the most expensive watch I owned was around $300 or so. And the only reason why it was so pricey is because it had this cool carbon fiber face, which granted is still pretty dang cool to this day. I'm a big fan of carbon fiber. I think the phrase that if Apple builds it, they will come rings true. And I didn't notice it before, but a lot of people are wearing these things out and about. And enough so that they're willing to pay that Apple premium to have this luxury item. And that's what this is. It's a luxury item. It's more than a watch. It's an extension of your iPhone. It's a small computer strapped to your wrist that's providing a ton of data throughout the day, giving you reminders, allowing you to accept phone calls and send messages. And it's a luxury item. Do you need it as much as folks online will tell you? Absolutely not. But it sure does offer some conveniences. Let's say you're cooking a delicious dish and you get a call. Normally, you'd have to maybe wash your hands and walk a few feet to your phone to see who's calling. But with the Apple Watch, you just raise your wrist, see who's calling, and can choose to answer and talk directly to the watch itself. The audio that plays is surprisingly well, and the integration with your iPhone is truly seamless. I have an intro for one of my project car videos where I'm actually working under the car and I get a call from a spam caller. This watch really would have been a savior in that scenario. Granted, if I was willing to get it potentially dirty and maybe even covered in oil, but that's besides the point. If you've got an iPhone, the Apple Watch just extends that functionality to your wrist. Really convenient. And that's the key here. If you don't own an iPhone, there's really no reason to buy the Apple Watch. Apple has built this beautiful ecosystem where all of the moving parts work well with each other for the most part. But don't you dare step foot outside of that ecosystem lest you face the dire consequences of reduced functionality and incompatible apps. I forgot to cover the physical device itself. Here I have the 45mm model finished in silver aluminum with the sport loop in storm blue. I like blue. I get a lot of people asking me what case I'm running on my Apple Watch Series 8. This is the Rhino Shield bumper case in gray with a blue insert. They've got a ton of colors to choose from, and you can exchange out the inner portion with a different color of your choosing, so customize it to how you like. I picked up 2 different colored inserts, but ended up going with the blue. It matches exactly with the blue that's on the Sport Loops plastic, and I think it really completes the look that I was going for. The case itself is super robust and lightweight. I'm never worried about bumping into things, which I do often, especially at the gym with the weights. And you guys probably didn't even notice, but I've had a screen protector on there for all the B-roll shots. The screen protector is poly, it's not glass, so it's never gonna crack. It'll dent if you ever hit something really hard, and the cool thing is each set has about 7 or 8 of them, so you can swap them out super easy. Once it's on, you can barely see that it's there, and the stock swipeability of the factory glass screen is maintained. I'm a pretty active guy, and I wear my Apple Watch nearly 24/7, so I never want to worry about it breaking or anything like that, especially since it's such an expensive investment. I've always believed that if you take care of your tech will take care of you. I'm really happy with the comfort and feel of the Apple Sport Loop. It's fully adjustable, lightweight. It's got this really soft design that's actually just Velcro all throughout. And while I normally wouldn't wear a watch to bed, this band makes it totally tolerable, and I often forget that I'm even wearing it. You can also get the Series 8 in a smaller 41mm case size, and both are offered in GPS or cellular configurations. When it comes to choosing between the GPS and cellular model, that really comes down to whether or not you're going to be using the watch with your phone nearby. If your phone's not going to be close, then the cellular model is really the one to pick. But do remember that you're going to be incurring some extra monthly costs from your phone carrier, which are usually around $10 to $15 a month or so. With my GPS model here, I can use the watch as I normally would as long as I'm connected to Wi-Fi. But as I mentioned earlier, not all public networks and captive networks will work with the Series 8. So you may have to use some workarounds or just have your phone nearby. I know a few Redditors have come up with a sequence of steps that you can follow to connect to some captive networks using the built-in browser that's not normally accessible to the normal interface they would use on the watch. But that's kind of a hack. It doesn't work all the time. You'd have to follow the steps every time you want to connect to the network. And it doesn't work for all captive networks. I feel like I've covered a lot of the features as they pertain to my use cases, but whether or not the Apple Watch Series 8 is worth a spot on your wrist is ultimately up for you to decide. Putting aside the flashy marketing and consumer mindset, if you can live without the temperature sensors and the crash detection, you can save some serious dough by going with last year's Series 7 model or even this year's SE model. With the SE, you'll miss out on the always-on edge-to-edge display, which honestly, I don't use the always-on feature myself. I just have it wake when I raise my wrist. With the SE, you also lose out on ECG and blood oxygen, but if you can live without those, like I said, you'll save about $150 over the base model Series 8. The Apple Watch Ultra kicks everything up a notch with that much larger screen and a bunch of pro athlete features, but I feel like it's one of those, if you have to ask, it's not really for you type of products, especially with that starting price of $800. For me, I've got to say that after owning the Apple Watch and using it every day and night for 3 weeks straight, I'm really happy with my purchase. I know I bagged on it a bit earlier, and although it does have its shortcomings and room for improvement, the small changes it's made to my everyday tasks and overall health has warranted the price I paid for it. I've been suffering from sleep issues for many years now, and being able to see in-depth sleep data for how many times I wake up at night and for how long I'm in certain sleep stages, I can kind of use that to change some things I do in my awake state to see how it quantifiably changes my time asleep.
Oh God, why?
The little reminders throughout the day to stand up when I've been sitting at my desk for too long, or maybe to take a second to breathe and meditate, and reflect on what's going on around you. It's like you've got this little companion that's always watching over you, pun intended, and making sure you're okay every once in a while. So yeah, I guess get an Apple Watch if you're feeling lonely. Thank you guys for watching. If you've made it this far, please don't forget to give the video a like and click that subscribe button. It really helps our small channel grow. I'm going to continue making more tech type of content as well as continue the car content that I already have going on the channel with our project cars and so on. So if you're interested, stick around and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves, huh? Peace out.